Okay, I'm gonna try something risky in this lesson. This fusion cornucopia is Rumples, by a guitar player named Adam Rogers. And of course, that's the one and only Nate Smith playing drums. This tune's famous for being on the second Chris Potter Underground album. This is Rumples 2. I'm air drumming along to avoid seeming to put anybody on the spot. More on that later. And this is Rumples also. I love comparison. It's one of the best ways to learn. If I asked you the difference between a 737 and an A320, you might struggle to tell me off the top of your head. But if you saw them parked side by side, it would be obvious. One of the things that's the biggest challenge on this channel is to explain that sometimes the difference between so-called advanced drummers and beginners can be subtle. A lot of people would hear a drummer playing solo and think, what's the problem? We assume if you can keep a beat, let alone if you've got chops, that's all there is, right? Every time I make a video that hints otherwise, I get tons of hate. Bro, who are you to say one drummer is better than another drummer? And so forth. But if you're listening carefully, you can probably tell the difference between this and this. One makes you want to tap your foot. The other feels less energetic. One seems to crackle. It's got tension, like a taut rubber band. The other feels more like a looser rubber band. It's the same thing as the difference between these two flea clips that I discussed in another video. Original cover. And fleas in both, right? So we have a control group. You get it, right? They're different. Okay, but why? In this video, we're gonna discuss 3 levels of tune. The original and 3 levels of covers, which we'll call beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Is one better than the others? If so, why? Stay tuned. Let's start by talking about how the beginner versions are better by leaps and bounds than they could have been. Here's beginner clip number 1. They're doing a lot of things right. Just for instance, keeping the beat, playing the melody, and keeping the time more or less. One can imagine playing this cover way worse. For instance, let me try to be worse. I could do it by playing rampantly out of time, for instance. Or generally getting crappy sounds out of the drums. When I was in college, I listened to a clinic from a jazz drummer named Matt Wilson. Matt said there are 3 levels of drumming: functional, creative, and inspirational. Notice that bottom level, functional. But here's the thing, functional still means you're taking care of business, unlike I am in this clip. That's also important because the musicians who played this cover did a decent job, especially for their level. So I don't want to sound like I'm picking on them. But the other important part is there are 2 other levels. Taking care of business like this is the price at the door. It's table stakes. But it doesn't make you want to make lemon face like the original does. So what's going on at those 2 additional levels? Let's look at a clip I'd call more advanced. Right away, you can tell some difference, right? Well, let's talk about those from the standpoint of the drums. First, the advanced drummer is doing 2 things differently than the less experienced one. The beginner drummer is playing with kind of a uniform touch and not really differentiating his rim shots from his unaccented strokes. Kind of like this. There's a concept I talk about all the time. I call it playing clean. It means you're getting all the sounds you intend to and none of the sounds you don't intend to get from the kit. You could also call it kit control. In fact, I did in my most popular video to date. Let's roll the clips again. Beginner drummer. More advanced drummer. So you're saying just nail those rim shots better? Is that all? I could have gotten that from a Carmine Appice video, but thanks for wasting my time, I guess. But it's not playing louder rim shots. Here's another clip of somebody nailing this cover. This is the multi-instrumentalist Mikey B. He's got a lighter touch on the drums, but he's mixed it well. But it's not just about the loud rim shots. The other big difference comes down to time, feel, or groove. It's funny because I used to have a jazz teacher who was like a broken record. You guys need to work on a deeper time feel. What? Get lost, bro. Time feel? What do I need, a chakra massage next? Well, the joke was on me. Here's Mikey B. And here's one of the beginners. Besides that the drums are mixed better, what else is Mikey doing better? 2 big things. There's time, or timing, of course. Within a bar, his subdivisions are more regular and predictable, more danceable than those of the beginners. He also has a more regular momentum. So the time an 8-bar phrase takes is more consistent, and he doesn't speed up or slow down within the architecture of the entire tune. But he's also got voicing. That means the volume and touch of each individual instrument is in better relation. Typically, beginners playing a rock or funk beat will kind of play everything the same volume and touch. If I were to demonstrate this, it might sound like this. But more experienced drummers play with the mixing board a little more. Say you wanted to bring out the rim shot and the kick drum relative to the volume of the hats a little. That's what Mikey B is doing here. And it still works even if the overall volume of the drums is lower. So it's not just about nailing that rim shot super hard. So far we've got playing clean or kit control, timing, and orchestration. That might be enough to get us from functional, like me in this clip, to creative, like these guys. But to be truly inspirational, at least in Matt Wilson's parlance, there are a few extra gears. Like, just listen to other Nate playing here. And I'm using a clip with the worst audio, so it's apples to apples. Now, here's one of the advanced covers again. Hear how Nate's phrasing the hi-hats and adding a little extra embellishment just to give the groove like an extra 5.5%. Here's Nate again as Chris, Adam, and Craig Taborn come in with the melody. You get the sense that in every take, Nate's playing would be a little different. He's beyond simply trying to play the groove, which many of the covers do well, to fully playing for the song. Finally, check out what Nate does when the band plays the last 16 bars of the melody. If you compare that to the beginners, they're not even trying to catch that bit. And I get it, it's difficult. You definitely don't want to sacrifice groove and time just to catch the melody. They're doing exactly what they should for their level. They're functional. By contrast, here's Mikey B playing that section. He's catching the figures. By the way, I don't envy trying to play that on the flute, just saying. But watch the OGs again. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's still gritty and human, but listen to how they catch the figures and still maintain the momentum of the song.
Most great improvisers...
Oops, crap. I forgot to cut it off before Craig Taborn's interview snippet. Hang on a minute. Let's hear what he has to say.
Most great improvisers are always working at the edge of their ability to understand what they're doing. That's sort of the definition of what it is. They're out on the kind of in the moment, piecing things together out of what's happening and making decisions in that moment.
Well, what do you know? There's Craig Taborn summing it up. That sounds a lot like Matt Wilson's inspirational level, right? Well, as a guy who listened to interpretations like Craig's and Matt's on being great, then struggled for an additional 20 years trying to get there, let me interpret a little. That being out there, piecing things together in the moment, is exactly what it feels like to a musician who's already nailed down the basics. But there's an order of operations to this stuff. First, hold down the groove and time, like our beginners. Next, add some kick control and feel, like these guys. And a touch of orchestration, like Mikey B. Then, when that's all taken care of, you can push the envelope and embrace the chaos like Taborn talks about. And that's 3 levels of covers for a single tune. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and because I've used so much of other people's music in this, to stay within the bounds of fair use, I'm not allowed to make a commercial. But what I think I can get through is offering you guys something for free. And if you've been watching me for a while, if you think you might be ready to go a little bit deeper, I recommend you click the link below the player and enter your email in on the next page. And I'll email you 3 completely free videos, which I assert will make your playing better in the next 3 weeks than it's gotten in the last 6 months. That's 3 videos to make your playing better in 3 weeks. Dudes, had a lot of fun. As always, check you next time.
At the highest level, I think jazz involves exactly what Craig was talking about being on that edge of, risk and failure and not, beginning at that place or trying to get to a space where you're beginning at that place and then going further than you know.